Now, from The Signature, a division of Esquire Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Mary Julia Koch. She is a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. She's also the daughter of the late billionaire David Koch. She's 25. Wait, David got started a little bit later in life, huh? Guess you can do that when you're a billionaire. Anyway, she is being pilloried online, Mary Julia Koch, the billionaireess, for this piece she filed on young men in the workforce, or more to the point, not in the workforce in America, and what to do about it. How did we get here? What to do about it? Take a listen.
Where did all the guys in the office go?
American women now hold 176,000 more payroll jobs than American men. That's a far cry from 3 decades ago when men held nearly 7 million more jobs than women. What changed? The largely male-dominated industries of manufacturing and construction have lost employment for decades due to automation and offshoring. Meanwhile, the healthcare industry, which is 78% female, is thriving. The male unemployment rate is actually relatively low right now, but the number of men who aren't even looking for a job has reached a nearly 20-year high. Gen Z men grew up witnessing the effects of the Great Recession and corporate America's push to bring more women into male-dominated fields. That left many of them feeling pessimistic about their own employment prospects. So for the guys who aren't working or even looking for work, what are they up to? Many are living at home. Some are even embracing the trend of being a stay-at-home boyfriend with a breadwinning girlfriend. This is all while more and more of life is happening through a screen. Social media, video gaming, sports betting, further isolating men from real life. But we can fix this. We can encourage more men to enter education, healthcare, and administration, just as women were encouraged to pursue careers in STEM. We could also expand vocational training and apprenticeships for men who are skipping college. It's time to bring a generation of young men back in from the sidelines.
I don't think it would be so offensive if her last name wasn't Koch, and yes, of those Kochs. But, I mean, there's some things that she's missing. Some of the response online has been interesting because it is very much of the victimization approach to difficulty. So, yeah, there's no question the DEI push in corporate America has changed the opportunities for young men, particularly young white men, because of the race obsession that has permeated the culture, including in corporate America. But, you know, this, and by the same token, I think you have to look at this and say, yes, that this DEI is wrong, whether it's for college admissions or for hiring decisions. But, you know, Black Americans, in many respects, as Bob Woodson used to say, were at their best when America and white America was at its worst during things like Jim Crow. So these things are overcomable. Even if people are being wronged, people are always being wronged, even by group, because we're in this identitarian era, and people are clannish by sort of DNA. You have to really think through transcending non-behavioral characteristics like race and sex, and some people find that very difficult to do. So the larger question about young men out of the workforce, disaffected, and what that means to our politics, which is a perfect segue to our next guest. Emil Barr is the co-founder of FlashPass and the founder of Step Up Social. Great piece in the Wall Street Journal. The young MAGA socialists are here. Some jarring statistics. Emil Barr, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So I was surprised by this, and I'm obviously consuming a lot of this content on a daily basis, but 53% of self-identified conservatives under 40 support government-run grocery stores.
It's true.
And maybe what Mary Koch described in her piece is part of that reason. What's your explanation?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I think I understand why young people are upset and turning to socialism, but I also think that it's very dangerous for this country. And I say that as a 23-year-old myself. As a whole, I think our generation needs to stop playing the victim and hoping that some big Uncle Sam steps in and makes all our problems go away. What I think we do really need to do a better job of is educating other young people on the benefits of capitalism. The truth is that capitalism is the best system we have to take people out of poverty. It makes people rich. It's not a perfect system, but it's the best system we have. History has proven that time and time again. It's why right now, as Americans, we currently live in the richest country in the world, in the richest period of human history. But I think that the day that we start walking away from capitalism as our predominant political philosophy is actually the day that we give up on making the American dream a reality.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me, in this MAGA era of the last decade, and that's why I was interested that the title Young MAGA Socialists are here. What they've seen from their government and from President Trump is essentially a lot of rent-seeking behavior, where government is used to punish enemies and defend or promote friends, whether it's a particular economic cohort or social cohort. And it tends to get people to say, well, the federal government should do something about this, the way that the left is sort of inclined to do is, if there's a problem in the world, then government at every level needs to hop to it rather than government acting as a negative restraint. These are the rules of the game. We're not going to put our finger on the scale for anybody, and we're going to allow sort of the competitive environment to determine who is more successful than the other.
I mean, you totally hit the nail on the head, right? On the left, and this has been common on the left, this sort of victim mentality. The villain is usually because of the billionaires or some sort of corporation. But now on the right, we're seeing that the reason that you're not successful or you can't afford something you want is because of China or immigrants or Israel. And so that's a mentality we're starting to see on the right as well. And I actually think that's really dangerous. I think that, look, I myself started a company as a teenager and I became a decamillionaire by 20 with no prior business skills or family connections. But the problem is we've stopped telling those stories. Instead, what we do is we try to sort of vilify other people and sell Americans on the promise of a government that's more involved. And I don't think that's the right direction for this country.
Right. I mean, it seems to me, a full-throated defense of free enterprise, a real education that's not happening in the schools, which is a whole nother matter. And then also a recognition. Look, we have advanced some terrible public policy that has negatively impacted your lives. There's no question about it. For example, open borders, or maybe some trade deals that negatively impact a particular sector. So we can recognize and say we need better public policy in the area for, say, immigration, for example. But that doesn't give you an excuse. That doesn't legitimize your sort of throwing up your hands and blaming other people for your lot in life. You need to, be able to overcome obstacles and also work constructively for better public policy in the areas that, in the areas where there is agreement with other center-right, commonsensical people.
Yeah, look, let's talk about some facts, right? Which is, if you're not successful, the fact is it's not because of billionaires, but it's also not because of immigrants. The facts are, like, as a country, what worries me is we used to clap for the guy in the limousine.
Yeah.
Now we just complain and make TikToks about it. The truth is, it has literally never been easier, and the facts prove this, to become a millionaire. There were more self-made millionaires who didn't inherit their money in the last decade than they were in the entire last century. But the problem is that we don't tell that narrative, and now we're starting to go another direction. So I think that you're absolutely correct. We just can't blame other people for our lot in life. That's not capitalistic, and honestly, I would say that's not American.
Yeah, and again, to be reflective of the party to which I affiliate, I don't think the Republican Party and its leadership, its highest profile leadership, has really committed the time and intellectual capital to make the case, to relentlessly make the case the way that you have to in the face of so much lazy support for rent-seeking behavior or redistribution schemes. We celebrate the small business person, we celebrate the entrepreneurial success story, sort of one-off, but without the the sort of the blocking and describing the blocking and tackling that is required, that is incumbent upon you, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or whether you want to be a cog in somebody else's wheel or somebody else's machine, I should say. Either are fine, but let's understand the sort of foundational principles we all should be operating from. And I worry that this is going to continue to trend away from us because you have sort of next generation populists like J.D. Vance who see the government as a force for good rather than as something that needs to be restrained, set the rules of the game, as I said, and let people compete on the same, within the same rules.
I think it really starts in the schools. When I was in high school, and this was only about 6-7 years ago when I started my business, we didn't learn about the entrepreneurs and the people that built this country and see them in a positive light. And I worry that that message is becoming less and less prevalent among young people. There's less and less of a celebration of free enterprise and entrepreneurship. And that's a big part of what inspired me to write my op-ed.
And so, it's one of those things that starts in the schools, and the strategy that needs to be cobbled together to actually, affect that, doing something in the schools. I mean, 50 million people in government 50 million kids in government K through 12 in the state, in the country. And it's like, sort of, where do we begin? Which state, which school district would approach? I mean, there are things out there like, Bob Woodson's pro-America curriculum that's being adopted in lots of schools. That's a good example of something that's happening, but to try to get that to scale or, let 1,000 flowers bloom along those lines and bring those to scale in different ways and different orientations where there are opportunities. But it seems to me an overarching strategy needs to be cobbled together the way that, say, the schools that Booker T. Washington did with the with the founder of Sears back in the day to educate black children in the South. That was an actual strategy that was executed. It seems like we need something like that today.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think that we need to do a better job again of teaching young people about why capitalism is great. I think that you and I, because we're both students of history, and even though we're from different generations, we have that in common. We've studied history. We know that the only group of people that gets rich in a socialist government is the bureaucrats. Everyone else starves. But I worry that history repeats itself. And if we don't do a better, more proactive job of explaining why America is the richest country in the world and why our standard of living is better than pretty much anywhere else in the globe, I worry that that is going to get overshadowed by these false promises of socialism and the government's job to be to step in and solve your problems. And so I want to do my part in speaking up on behalf of capitalism and free enterprise.
Emil Barr, co-founder of FlashPass and founder of Step Up Social, the piece in the journal, The Young MAGA Socialists Are Here. Emil Barr, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Labor Day and the American labor movement were built on three fundamental principles: fair wages, reasonable hours, and big savings on Beautyrest at Hassellist Mattress. Or something like that. Now through Labor Day, Hassellist will give you a free adjustable base with the purchase of any Beautyrest mattress, including Beautyrest World Class and the ultra-luxury Beautyrest Black. If your current mattress has been laboring under you for the past decade, it deserves